AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show. The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Buddy Ray.
Welcome to it, race fans. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com. That is karting with a K. Joe's Karting, fast-paced, white-knuckle racing, where the only speed restriction is how fast you are. Anything new over at Joe's?
No, actually, we've had I tell you what, business is rocking. We just got to looking at the numbers.
That's all because of The Front Stretch, by the way.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, we actually had a group come in a week and a half ago, and the guy had mentioned, he goes, "Are you Buddy Ray from The Front Stretch?" I was like, "No, that guy's about 5'8", blonde-haired with a goatee. I'm Dan Taylor. I'm the smart, good-looking one." He started live, goes, "With your voice, I know you're Buddy Ray." So no hiding that. But no, we've been doing really good. We're rocking and getting ready to roll into August and have a good month in the month of August. We got a lot of people coming out, a lot of fresh new faces, which we'd love to see that.
Corporate outings, business outings, just small business relaxation. I'm going to talk to Luke Cochran once he's able to finally take a couple of days and get off of a roof from all the home pride companies, and talk to him about maybe sending him your way for all the stuff he does for us and all the help he does for us, especially in the off-season. Little bit of a side note, we're going to have a big announcement next weekend. Next weekend show, we've got a really big announcement.
Really big.
Really big.
Really, really big.
Really, really big. This is going to be fun. I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of moving parts to this baby, so we were hoping to announce it today. Just not going to happen in time. We want to make sure we got everything buttoned up before we make the big announcement.
My cup deal has not been finalized yet.
We can't talk about that. Moving parts. Joe Gibbs already dropped enough hints as to what's going on.
My Lucas Oil and USMTS start. That was a joke on Facebook, people. That's not what we're talking about. Big news.
Get to Joe's today. It's fast-paced, white-knuckle racing. It's amazing time. I've had so many people that have talked to me about, I'm excited to go. And this God honest, I'm going to imitate. Yeah, it's going to be kind of cool to go. And then I know exactly when they get done racing because they call me up. Oh my God, that was the most amazing thing I've ever done. That is karting. That's what you always want karting to be. Because when you think of karting, again, you think of the governed go-karts that are over-insured at these crappy little amusement parks. No, this is all Joe's does. A specially designed track that works with you both ways. You got to be good in the corners. You got to be good on the straightaways. You got to be good throughout the wide swoops.
And guess what? We're 2 months away, almost 3 months away, to the Racing with the Stars in November.
And you've got a good lineup of drivers that you're getting there this year.
Oh,
it'll be a lot of fun this year, so that'll be a lot of fun. Are you going to invite John Walsh?
I'm thinking I am going to invite John Walsh. I just got to get a hold of John Walsh.
I'll give you his email address.
There you go.
He's really good about getting back to emails. Okay, big show lined up for you today. We're going to talk to Shayle Bade. She did it.
She won.
She did it. She
winner chicken dinner.
I've seen so many pictures of her on Facebook of when she climbed out of that car, and I'm sure you'll hear it in her voice again. She was just over the moon. Couldn't believe she got it done, and she did it.
I think it's 03 Bade Racing on Facebook. There's one picture. It's very iconic. Stands out in my memory. She's standing on top of her car. She's got the helmet on.
Yeah.
And you can look straight through the visor, and you can see exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
She's crying.
Oh, she's crying. I saw that, too, and I thought, well, I don't know if I should bring it up. But what the hell? I mean, she deserves it.
She's gone from the highs to the lows. She's rolled cars. She's destroyed cars. She's had every possible thing happen to her this year, including winning.
So we got a great show lined up for you today. We hope that you hang around and enjoy it. A little bit more of a relaxed show. We don't have as many interviews lined up for you today, so we want to get kind of caught up on some of the big local news that has happened so far as of our recording. And then obviously there's a lot to talk about in NASCAR. They finally decided to make some news, although I'm sure the 11 team would prefer to have not been one of the news stories that's going on. But first and foremost, we can't go any farther in the show without talking about the loss of Ray Houck at Adams County Speedway. You knew him. I thought we talked to him, but I can't find any recordings, any audio, so we must have missed it.
He's been on the front stretch. I got to thinking about that twice. He did pass away at home. Everybody knows this is recorded on Wednesday. He did pass away actually on Wednesday morning from cancer. It was brief. He's no longer suffering. Ray Houck was one of the gentle giants in local racing. He wasn't a tall guy, but he had a very large stature about him. And he, for no more than what him and I talked and got to know each other, he was the promoter. He wanted to talk to you on a down-to-earth level. He didn't try to talk down at you or talk up towards you. He just wanted to, talk to you one-on-one, get to know you. He was always a super nice guy. You and I have always said that these promoters have the most thankless job. Either they're getting yelled at or they're getting praised.
Yeah.
And that's part of the job. But when you took Ray Houck away from the job and he was the guy on the street or, whatever, he was just one of the most surreal, down-to-earth, honest, humble guys that I'd ever talked to. And kind of a funny story. I was talking to Lee Ackerman from Indy Speedway. I talked to Ray for, good Lord, probably 6, 7, 8 times in depth. And then we did a Joe's versus Pros outing one night for Adams County Speedway at Joe's Karting. Well, my cashier at the time comes up to me and goes, "Bud, I think we got a homeless guy at the front door." And so I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, there's a homeless guy, and it looks like he's chewing about a half a bag of tobacco." And so I go up there, and I went up to the guy, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Well, who are you?" And with this big boom, deepened voice. And I told him, "Buddy Ray," and he goes, "Well, I'm Ray Houck." And he didn't look like some big flashy guy, but I was like, oh my God. And it was a life lesson. You don't judge a book by its cover. And this guy would sit here. He talked to my crew the entire night. He asked us how business was going. He talked to the drivers. He thanked all the drivers for coming out to Joe's, taking part of the Joe's versus Pros. The first year we did the front stretch, I went down to Adams County Speedway, gave us free pit passes, talked about the front stretch. I talked to the drivers, made us feel right at home. And anything that we could ever want, he was always there. It was an open door policy with him. I could call him. I could go down and see him, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. To lose Ray Houck in the Midwest racing scene is a devastating loss.
Well, we send our thoughts and prayers to the Houck family, and we definitely send our support to all those that are going to be missing Ray. Fortunately, I didn't get to know him personally, but that's a big loss. To lose a promoter, these guys are so valuable because the good ones are so few and far between, and it's very sad that he ended up losing his battle to cancer.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I see or hear about Ray Houck, passing away, I think of George Jones and his song, "Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes?" Because those are some mighty, mighty big shoes to fill with Ray Houck right down there in Corning.
Well, if I could transition that, who's going to fill their shoes? The biggest news of the weekend, I think, as far as NASCAR is concerned, was definitely the news that broke Sunday morning. A very odd and untimely decision to make the announcement that Carl Edwards wasn't going to be returning to Roush Fenway Racing. I want to start off by saying,
did NASCAR break that, or did Roush Fenway?
It was Roush. Roush was the one that held the press conference and said, and they basically, the press conference was to announce their 2015 lineup, which obviously now includes Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Greg Biffle, and Trevor Bayne. And then obviously that led into the next phase of it. Well, where's Carl? And, well, Carl's no longer going to be a part of the organization in 2015. We appreciate everything he's done, blah, 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 yakety schmackety.
Yeah. Did you think that was untimely, shocking, or unprofessional? Because I don't really see it all that unprofessional. Everybody knew that Edwards was not going to be back in 2015. It was the worst kept secret, if it was a secret at all. And so when they just came out and said, look, he's just not going to be with us, it's not like, if they wanted to be unprofessional, they could have said, well, he's not going to be with us in 15. He's going to go with, some other team. This is where he's going. Mm-hmm. That would have been unprofessional, but they're just saying what everybody knew already. He's just not going to be back.
No, I don't agree with that at all. Kevin Harvick was upset when Richard Childress did it to him at Homestead 2 years ago, or the end of last year when he was making the move. Or what? No, it was 2 years ago at Homestead. 2012 was when they made the announcement. It's unprofessional because now Carl, all the spotlight is on Carl. Basically, what it feels like to me, what Roush Fenway did was, you're not coming back to us? Fine. We'll throw you to the wolves, and you can every single weekend, every single day at the track, you can answer 50 questions on where you going, where you signing, who you driving for, rather than continuing to protect the umbrella and keep you underneath of our roof until the respectable time. The Chase, Homestead is generally when everyone makes those announcements of what's going on for the next year. There's a time and a place, and I think Indianapolis, T-minus 2 hours to the green flag, that wasn't the time or place.
Yeah, but at the same time, by breaking the news the way they did, now you think it's unprofessional. I don't think it's unprofessional. If I'm Roush Fenway, or if I'm Jack Roush, Dan Taylor, you're not going to be back with me next year. If I'm getting hounded by the support or the reporters all the time.
They weren't, though. They weren't. They both said we're not going to make an announcement on the teams until the end of the season. That's what makes it unprofessional. Is that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Roush just
to me,
pulls
there's got to be something going on behind the scenes that we didn't realize.
I agree. I think you're right. I think there is something going on behind the scenes that we don't realize, but still. So that's until the next shoe drops and we figure out what that is, I think it's an unprofessional move.
You think it's unprofessional? I'm not that worried about it. I don't think it was that unprofessional.
So then I'm sitting here thinking, as they're making all these announcements that Carl's not going to be part of the team anymore, Ford comes out and says, basically, we appreciate all Karl has done for the Ford camp, for everything he's done. We appreciate what he's done for us. And I'm sitting there thinking, if Ford's making a statement that they appreciate what he has done for them, he's not going back to Ford, because the other team I thought might pick him up would be Penske. Even though Penske came out a couple of weeks ago and said we've had no conversation with Karl, teams do that all the time. You got to put those false statements out there. You basically got to lie to the media to get the pressure off you so you could focus on race weekend. And so I didn't believe for a second that Roger Penske hadn't had any conversations with Karl Edwards. I felt that was a statement he needed to make at the time to pull the pressure off of his team and his organization.
And Karl.
So I guess I feel like with this Ford statement that he's going to Joe Gibbs Racing.
Well, it's kind of funny when you look at jski.com, Joe Gibbs is looking at the possibility of buying a fourth car. Who would that driver be?
Here's the other thing. Ever since, there was the last contract negotiations with Karl, Roush had to re-up and give him a bunch of money to get him to stay with Roush before. Later, it's all come out that Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing both felt they had a done deal with Karl, and that it was a shock to them when the announcement was made that Karl was re-signing with Roush. So then the next year, they go and sign Matt Kenseth. Now, you look at, if you're Karl, you're looking at sitting there going, did I make the right decision? Because the car Karl would have driven went and won, 5 or 6, 7 races last year and was battling for the championship. Well, where was Karl? And I think that's when he's sitting there all the last year and this year sitting there going, where am I? And where is Roush? They're certainly not leading in the Ford camp. Penske's whooping them when it comes to that.
Oh, yeah.
I was reading so many articles today over the last couple of days about Roush's state, the state of Roush and where it's at, because it used to be a leader in the sport. It used to be the pioneers.
You used to be scared when you showed up to race against them.
It's Hendrick, Stewart-Haas Racing, and Penske are your dominant organizations right now. And frankly, I don't think Penske is in the top 5. I'm not even sure they're in the top 7. Because they get to a track.
Penske or Roush?
I'm sorry, Roush. Thank you. I don't think they're in the top 7. It's just, they're so far behind. And one of the big articles I read today on NASCAR.com, or no, it was FoxSports.com, was a conversation between several people within the Fox organization of how important engineers have become and how Roush has been terrible at working to get new engineers into their system to be able to figure out these nooks and crannies and tweaks and stuff that Hendrick and Stewart-Haas and Penske have been able to figure out. So I don't blame Karl at all. In fact, I was talking to one of the guys who's a part of the Pick'ems contest, Jim Laughlin, who him and I have been going back and forth because I thought Karl's ready to leave for the last 4 years. I sent him a message on Sunday morning and I said, sounds like your boy's leaving. And it was kind of a summary. He says, yeah, I know. And I said, what are you going to do? I mean, he's not going to be in Ford. He's going over to Joe Gibbs. You're going to continue to be his fan. He says, I'll always be a Karl fan. I'll always follow him wherever he goes, but I'm going to bleed blue Ford through and through. And that's got to be a hard thing for him because he's a diehard Karl fan, and he's all the Edwards fans now. And it's not a done deal. As far as Joe Gibbs is concerned, they've been trying to get that 4th team going, but it's the biggest hurdle that every team faces.
Yeah, the one thing I do want to...
Let me finish that. The hurdle is sponsorship. You can have the best driver in the world, but like we talked about last weekend with the cost of racing, of having a team, another car out there, it's about $40 million a year to have a competitive car on the track. That's everything included, about $40 million a year to field that car. And you got to have a sponsor for that. Carl's going to be able to bring some with him, but we've already found out that Fastenal's not.
Fastenal stayed with Roush. And isn't it Stenhouse Jr. with the Fastenal Ford now?
Yeah.
Yep.
They're going to be. I mean, he's
the primary sponsor for him.
I didn't catch how many races, but yeah, it's not going to be for a majority of the races. I think it's going to be like 10 or 12.
The one thing I want to turn my attention to is not so much Joe Gibbs, not so much Roush, not so much Carl, but you know who this puts tremendous, and I mean tremendous amount of pressure on? Greg Biffle. This is the one guy out of the whole. This is going to be your veteran driver in the Roush stable, and so everybody's thinking, well, Edwards is a better driver than Biffle.
Yeah.
Name him. Who you take Edwards out of the equation. Who's better than Biffle at the Roush?
Well, but I don't think if Carl would have stayed, I think the issue goes back to the article I read earlier this week. It's engineers. It's not drivers anymore. It's engineers. They are the most important facet of a team right now. The other organizations have poured tons of money into engineers to get the right ones, to get the smartest ones, to get the most innovative ones. I think had Carl re-signed, Roush Fenway wouldn't be any better off than him leaving. See what I'm saying? It's
right.
He wasn't making that big difference. He's got 2 wins this year. I'll give you that. You know, it was at Sonoma and Bristol. He's got his 2 wins. But take out those 2 wins. I'll say it like I've said it for the last 3 years. Where is Roush Fenway? They're so far behind on the research and development. I don't think that Biffle's got. I mean, he's now the veteran in the group. He's 44 years old. But even if he was Jimmy Johnson and some of these top-notch drivers, without the right engineers at the shop, he's not going to be doing any better. It's going to be a tough road for those guys. They got to get it together in the next couple of years, or they're really going to start having some issues. We got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2 with Shayle Bade, driver of the 03-305 Race Saver Sprint car, a fresh winner. Congratulations to Shayle. We'll talk to her about that win coming up next on the front stretch.
The best bike night on the planet continues with the hottest Wednesday nights around at Quaker Steak & Lube. Smoking hot deals like $6.99 lube burgers or $3 Busch Lights, $4 aluminum pint bottles, smoking bands on the lube stage, and smoking giveaways like concert tickets to Firehouse at Ralston Arena or Stir Cove. Bike night at Quaker Steak & Lube, brought to you by Holstein's Harley-Davidson each and every Wednesday night, where there's never a cover charge and always a great time. Quaker Steak & Lube, next to the Mid-America Center in Council Bluffs. 40 years and still smoking.
This is Andrew from Kaziski Auto Parts. Kaziski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Kaziski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kaziski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kaziski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
Heading into turn number 2 here on the front stretch, presented by Kaziski Auto Parts, online at kaziskiautoparts.com. We are talking now with the driver of the 03 U.S. Army Race Saver 305 Sprint car and a new winner, ladies and gentlemen, Shayle Bade.
I've been waiting for a long time for you to say that.
And it has been a long time coming. You're all of a sudden a big star this week. You get yourself a win. You're all over the TV. Us radio guys, we're just chump change all of a sudden.
Oh, no, you're not. You'll never be chump change. You guys are what help me out and get started.
Oh, we appreciate that. I do want to know that I saw a lot of stuff about you shooting some video. Was it coincidental that news crew was on hand that night shooting that stuff, or was that a different night and just kind of came out on coincidence?
Well, they came out. We planned it for Friday night to do some talking interviews with my car, kind of behind the scenes. And then they came out Saturday night to get some on-track footage and get some footage of us at the trailer and showing you guys what we do to get ready and prepare for the race that day.
Well, let's not even just beat around the bush anymore. You got yourself a win. Take me through it. I want to go lap by lap. What was going through your head as I believe you started on the pole?
Yes, I did. And luckily, the stars seemed to just line up perfectly that night. They did a pill draw, and they did pill draw differently than they've ever done before. And we ended up playing musical chairs for the pill draw. So here I am with 5 other guys playing musical chairs in front of the grandstands at Beatrice Speedway. Roger looks at me and he's like, "I'm sorry, Shayle." I was like, "Oh God, Roger, what are we about to do?" And here we are playing musical chairs, and it was a riot. The crowd got into it, and it was just a blast.
That's really funny.
Oh, I have a video of it on my racing page, and it is really funny. And you see me running behind Jason Martin trying to get the chair. It's hilarious.
I can just see little old tiny Shayle Bade just knocking some big guy over. Get off my chair.
And that's pretty much how it went. You wouldn't believe us. We looked like little kids back in elementary school playing musical chairs again.
Was there any fighting going on, butt pushing and that kind of stuff?
Oh, yes. You've got to check out the video. It's hilarious.
I'm actually going to it right now.
Did anybody get accused of cheating?
No cheating, but we had to take our hands off the chairs.
Okay.
Because everybody would try to put their hand on the back of the chair so they could just slip into it,
Yeah.
And so by a couple minutes into that, they told us we couldn't put our hands on the chairs again.
That is great. All right, so you started out on the pole, and I haven't gotten all the information, so just bear with me as we go through this, but I believe there was a time when you did end up giving up the lead, but a caution came out shortly after that, and you were able to regain it.
Yes. Mark Vanderhart spun out just in the nick of time. I was coming up to lap traffic, passed my first lap car, and the second lap car gave me a little trouble, and Jason Martin got around me, and then the caution came out and put me back in the lead, and we had about 6 to go then, and we had a green-white checker. And I hate green-white checker because the person is right on your tail.
Yeah.
You just know it. So I was like, there's no way that I'm going to let my first big win get taken away from me. But everything seemed to go so perfect that night, and my team really needed it. As a driver, I needed it too, but my team really needed it. They've worked really hard this year, and we've had a lot of downs, and it's been a really rough season, so that really brought us up. So now the next big thing is going to be getting a checker flag at Eagle Raceway.
That's you're already moving on to that next goal.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go through that last lap, your mindset, because this is always the stuff that fascinates me of what's sitting behind that helmet. What are you thinking? Are you focused on making sure you're hitting your line, or are you, oh crap, don't mess up?
I was very focused on keeping my line, and I've had a very steady line this whole race. I just got into a rhythm, and I kept hitting it mark after mark. And as soon as I came up to that white flag and I knew I had one to go, I'm like, Shayle, do not hit a tire. This is not the time to hit the tire and break your front end and lose it, because my dad will kill me. As soon as I passed that second tire, it was just straight home from there. Checkered flag.
Disbelief at all?
Not much disbelief. I was more in shock that we really did it. We really finally did it. This is the moment we've been waiting for all year and all last year.
Who was the first one that was at your car when you were getting unstrapped?
It would have been Stu Schneider.
Really?
Yep. He stood in the infield with me, and he was kind of telling me that my lines were perfect and telling me that I was pulling away and that I had nothing to worry about, as in if they were right on my tail the whole time. He told me that I was pulling away, just keep my cool. And as soon as he came up to my car, I handed him my gloves, and he told me to get on that wing. I was like, hell yeah.
If you
I got up on that lane.
If you haven't yet, head to Shayle Bade Racing, number 03, and your picture on there it's a priceless picture. Buddy talked about it in the last turn. It's an absolutely priceless picture.
Yeah, when we opened up the show, telling folks that, that we're going to be talking to you here in the turn, 21 years behind the wheel of a car, I've seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things, watched a lot of things. But when I see Shayle Bade standing on that wing and you're staring right into the visor of Shayle Bade and you got your hands on your helmet, there's no way you can't tell me that you're not crying like a little baby up there. That is the most one of the most iconic local racing pictures I've ever seen, because that right there, Shayle, told about a lot of heartbreak and a lot of highs in the season. But that also shows right there the spirit behind a young racer that's grown up in the heartland, and that is definitely, that's museum quality right there.
Oh, yeah, you just gave me goosebumps walking me through that picture. I'm not going to lie, I did shed a couple tears. This has been a long time waiting. I waited a long time to capture that picture.
I saw it somewhere. I think it was a meme that said from flipping to first all in one season, and that kind of summed it up for me. You took a heck of a spill a couple of weeks ago at Eagle Raceway with I think we talked to you that week afterwards that you figured you were 7 feet in the air.
I was higher than the catch fence of what the flagman told me.
Wow. And
You're about 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, it was pretty high.
And so then crossing that start-finish line, all that goes away, and you're now winner, chicken dinner.
Yes, finally.
All right. Now we'll ask sets of questions. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about, you're going for your win at Eagle Raceway. You're going for that big win. Is it still sitting in the back of your head? You still got a little pep in your step that you're a big winner, or are you moving on? This week's a new week.
This is definitely a new week. Every week's a new week. You can only do what you can do. You do everything the same and just hope for the best. So we got a win under our belt. I'm not striving for that win as hard anymore. I can relax a little bit, but I'm still going for that big win.
Kind of takes pressure off your shoulder? It kind of takes pressure off your shoulder a little bit?
Yes, it does.
Take us back to when you first get to the toter and you got to look your dad straight in the eye and said, "Dad, we did it," and your boyfriend. What was that moment like?
Well, when I first seen them, we did our group team picture in front of the winner's circle, and seeing my dad, I was very excited to see my dad. He just had that huge smile on his face, that smile that I seen when I was 8 years old when he asked me, "Do you want to race a go-kart?" And I just said yes when I absolutely hated it. So it brought back a bunch of memories, and I loved every single moment of it, and my whole pit crew was just ecstatic, and my head mechanic, Dick Shively, which does a lot of the maintenance during the week, does all of our motor work, and he couldn't even say anything to me. He was just crying. Couldn't even say a word to me. I tried to tell him that we did it, and he just cried.
What was the video I saw of you and Stu Schneider driving back after that night singing, was it Don't Stop Believin'?
Yeah, from Journey.
Maybe I need to start singing that.
Oh, yeah, it came on at the perfect time. We just turned it up and sang our lungs out.
That's great. All right, Shayle, obviously we're talking to you on Sunday morning, so you've had another week of racing under your belt. Hopefully we can talk to you next week about win number 2, but talk to the fans about where's the next couple of weeks, where we can find you. You're weekly at Eagle on Saturday nights. Where else?
Yes, we will be finishing our season out at Eagle, and then we will be making another debut at Iowa on their state fairgrounds in Des Moines. And then after that, we'll be traveling as soon as our season ends here, traveling around the Midwest, looking for 2 or 3 day shows, anything we can find. We don't want to stop now.
Yeah.
Shayle, we were talking about this being a good luck charm for you this year. Just out of curiosity, was little old Bacon with you?
Oh, yeah. She was definitely there. She's always there.
Hey, I will tell you.
Definitely the new good luck charm.
I'll tell you that I don't know if it's pressure or if it's good luck, but we've had some really good luck with drivers who have done interviews on here. We talked to IndyCar drivers Ryan Hunter-Reay and Joseph Newgarden. They finished 1-2 at Iowa Speedway. We talked to Ty Dillon and Brendan Gaughan last weekend, and the night before, Ty got his very first nationwide win at Indianapolis. So I'm feeling like another win's just around the corner for you.
Well, I sure hope you're right, and I'm going to hold you to it.
All right, Shayle, thanks so much, and seriously, congratulations. You definitely
thank you guys.
You definitely made us proud.
I appreciate it.
It was great to hear you win. All right, have a good one. Best of luck the rest of the season, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, you guys too.
She is an awesome young lady.
Yep.
I mean, a fine ambassador to this sport, but.
Yep.
I just cannot get that photo of her crying in her helmet. I mean, I was there 2011 when I got my first A feature win. When I saw the checkered flags at Eagle Raceway, I seriously thought it was like dual white flags. I'm like, what, me win a race?
Yeah.
So I thought it was dual white flags. So I'm getting ready to come back around, and Roger's like, Bud, you just won. You want to do
won.
something?
Yeah.
I was like, I almost felt like Ricky Bobby. I was like, what do I do?
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back in turn 3. We're going to break down the rules, infraction, and penalty for the 11 team. That's going to take all 10 minutes of turn 3. We'll be back here on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
For 50 years, Eagle Raceway has been pushing the limits of dirt track racing. Saturday nights, come see the Midwest Best Battle at the fastest third-mile track. Gates open at 5:30 for IMCA Modifieds, Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, Sport Mods, and Race Saver Sprint Cars. Eagle kicks their season off on April 19th with the Icebreaker Challenge, featuring the debut of the Race Saver Sprint Cars. Located just 10 minutes east of Lincoln on Highway 34 and online at eagleraceway.com.
All race car drivers know how frustrating it can be to lose a race because of a cheap part. They save pennies by going with the cheap part, and now they're on the hauler watching someone else celebrate in victory lane. Cutting corners in racing is just as costly as cutting corners on your car. Make sure you have quality parts on your car by heading to O'Reilly Auto Parts. With 13 locations in Omaha and Council Bluffs, it's easy to find an O'Reilly Auto Parts near you. Find your parts fast and easily online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
Time to grab another tear-off and make your move. We're headed into turn 3 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
All right, welcome back to the front stretch. Turn number 3 brought to you by Alter Metal Recycling, online at altermetalrecycling.com. Don't just throw your metal in the recycling bin. You might as well get something for it. You know, as well as a few people do know, I'm a computer geek. For some reason, when you are labeled as a computer geek, people are like, hey, do you want my old Windows 95 computer? And I'm like, yes, of course I want your old computer. They're so useful. I'd go ahead and take them, and guess what I started doing?
Recycling
Taking them down to Alter Metal Recycling. I'm not getting a lot of money, but I'm getting more than I would have gotten if I hadn't taken that crappy computer off their hands.
I'm telling you. Not only that, but you might even have some spare parts.
You're absolutely right. By the way, I've salvaged power supplies and hard drives and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of fun to all of a sudden it's becoming used. So by the way, if you have old computers, I'll take them off your hands and I'll take them down to Alter Metal Recycling for you. I'll make a little money off of it. Online at altermetalrecycling.com with locations in Council Bluffs. Find them online and get your money for your metal. Well, this is going to be an interesting conversation. I want to take as much time as possible because there's a lot of parts to this penalty as far as the 11 team is concerned. So I'll start off with this. Post-race inspection, NASCAR noticed that there was a crush panel in the rear of the car that had failed. So they confiscated that part and took it back to the Research and Development Center in Concord, North Carolina. On Tuesday, they came out with the stiffest penalties I have ever seen. And I'm going to throw a but in there, but we'll get to that at the end of the whole thing. Here's the penalties broke down in a nutshell. And I'm not even kidding. There's about 30 of them. It's a P5 penalty.
30?
About, roughly. maybe only 10, but there's a lot. Because, there's the Section 12-1, actions detrimental to stock car racing, Section 20-2.1, 20.3.4, 20.3.4.5.
So there's a lot of points in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of violations. Basically, here's what happened. Darian Grubb and crew chief, I'm going to scan through it real quick to see if I can't find his name, and I'm not going to find it in time. The crew chief for the car, Wesley Sherrill, were both fined $125,000.
Wow.
Placed on NASCAR probation for a 6-month period, and they both were placed on suspension for 6 races.
Does a 6-month probation, does that go all the way to February of next year, or are we just shy of that?
We are in month 7. We'll just miss it.
Just miss it.
Yeah. The option in the rule book says till the end of the calendar year or 6 months. They opted to go with 6 months. Now, that puts them on probation. If they violate anything...
Whoa. You said it goes from calendar year or 6 months.
Yeah.
So if they took or 6 months, then I'm reading that as they're taking a 6 months of racing time.
No. It's 6 months.
So what's the difference between 6 months or a calendar year?
Then they end the probation on December 31st.
Okay.
They've got an option of ending it at the end of the calendar year or 6 months. So they're going with 6 months. Then the 11 team lost 75 championship driver points and 75 championship owner points. To my recollection, that is the largest points penalty I've ever seen.
So what was this crush panel supposed to do for fines and suspensions of this nature?
From what I've been able to tell, one of the rules that stuck out to me was that illegal modifications that would allow a panel to fail on purpose during a race, or that was installed improperly and allowed it to fail during a race. That's what stuck out to me, as they rigged this panel to fail on purpose. And what it did was it allowed air to come back up into the car, and according to what I've been able to read, that added 20 to 30 pounds of extra downforce to the 11 car.
How'd he do in the race?
Third. Should have won the race.
Yeah. Third. Did he look overly fast in the race?
I got to tell you, I was at the zoo. I didn't get to see it. But from what everybody said, it was a mistake on pit road, a strategy mistake that cost him that race. He should have won that race.
If they can prove without a reasonable doubt that they deliberately did something like this, I could see this. But man, even for this mistake, this isn't even. Or let me take that back.
Finish your thought.
Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth's issue with Toyota at Kansas is nowhere near as stiff as this.
Well, that penalty was before the defined penalty tier. Keep that in mind. I think this is a pretty toothless, penaltyless penalty. The only way it hurts Joe Gibbs Racing, obviously the monetary fine, and then the 6-race suspension for the crew chief and the car chief. Those guys aren't allowed to work on the cars on race weekends. They're not allowed to be at the track. But 75 points, we're in the win it and you're in system. 75 points means nothing. 75 points in this case, if the appeal is overturned and the penalty stands, Denny drops from 11th to 19th in the chase. In the point standings, he's still well within the top 30. He's still going to be able to use his win to get in.
Yes, we are. If you win, you're in. But even if wasn't there something set up in the chase where you could still get on points at 16th, 15th, 14th? He's got
to win though.
But he's got to win now.
Yeah, he's had a win. So where do you win at?
So if he's got the win now, does this effectively take him out of the chase?
No, he's got to win. He's in.
Okay, let me ask you this. You're Denny Hamlin. Would you rather take this fine, or what would be more brutal to you? Take the fine, or we're going to take you out of the chase. You have to pick one or the other.
Well, I'm taking the fine, but Denny Hamlin's not getting a monetary fine. He's getting a point fine. That point fine means nothing to Denny Hamlin.
What's the point?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
The only thing that it hurts is the fact that Darian Grubb and Wesley Sherrill aren't able to work on the 11 car once it leaves the shop for the racetrack. That's the only part of this. And that's where, I'm hearing this on Tuesday as the fines are coming down, they're being read, and I'm going, oh my God, they lowered the hammer.
Wasn't Darian Grubb fined here several years ago when he was with Jimmy Johnson?
Darian Grubb crew chiefed for Jimmy Johnson when Chad was on probation or was on suspension.
I thought Grubb had been in trouble before.
Not to my knowledge. This is his first violation.
So I could be wrong.
But okay, so then the other conversation is if NASCAR really did want to send a sign, because here's what NASCAR did. They basically just yelled and said, "Oh, you gosh darn, you don't be doing that, no modification." If I am dead set on winning a championship, here's what I just learned from this rules coming down on Tuesday. Cheat all you want to, because they're not taking your wins. Violate that car. Set up this whatever you want to. Break all the rules you want to. Pay all the points fines you want to. As long as you finish 29th in the standings, you're in the chase. You've got yourself your wins. You've done what you needed to do. So go and cheat up that car. So the only option NASCAR could have done was, okay, Denny, your car cheated. We're removing that win. But I think that's pretty unfair.
Can you imagine if we got this muddled up in fines and suspensions in dirt racing? We get caught with an illegal part, guess what? You're DQ'd.
Yeah.
No points that night. Yeah. No money.
Well, he's getting DQ'd on Sunday. He's not getting any points, and he's having an additional 30 removed from his standings.
But he can still run with for the championship because he's got that win.
Yeah.
Whereas in dirt track racing,
I remember a story where the whole conversation was with Jesse Sobbing when he got either disqualified or black flagged at Shelby. They were trying to say that Luke Cochran wanted the DQ because that came off of his record for the national championship. So don't go there, because I know enough about dirt now to refute that one. So it's down in dirt too. So don't go there with me. I'm learning now. I'm figuring things out. So this penalty it's scary on the surface, but anybody with half a brain that can read it and then digest it for more than 10 minutes knows that once again NASCAR was kind of stuck. They couldn't. I think it would be too much of an overreach and unfair to Denny Hamlin to take his win away, because Denny didn't cheat that car up, and his car certainly wasn't cheated up when he won at Talladega. So why would you take that win away?
Right.
The only reason you would take it away is to really slap the hand of somebody that is repeatedly cheating.
I've often thought that NASCAR, when they've fined or suspended drivers, well, not so much as suspensions, but when they have fined the drivers, it seems like 9 times out of 10, the fines that the drivers take are for something that they had nothing to do with. Now, in this particular instance, Denny wasn't fined personally, and he's not suspended personally, but he's a recipient of somebody's stupidity, basically.
Well, somebody pushing the envelope and they got caught. But it doesn't hurt him at all, though, is the whole point of this entire conversation, is that 75 points last year meant a lot.
Yeah.
Last year, he's out of the chase with, what do we got, 5 races left?
Something like that.
Till we're at Richmond and we're deciding who's going on to Chicagoland. Yeah, 5 races left until we walk into Richmond. So 6 races left in the chase. So this year's standings doesn't hurt him at all. It affects him none. Which, I guess, when your whole argument last year when Martin Truex Jr. got penalized and he got pulled out of the chase, your whole argument was, well, Martin Truex Jr. didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't the one that spun and brought out the caution, but all of a sudden he got pulled out of the chase. So this is kind of a rule that maybe NASCAR learned a lesson with that one and said, okay, we had to penalize. In that situation, I think NASCAR did the right thing in penalizing Martin Truex. I keep saying that. Martin Truex Jr. inevitably paid the price for his team's mistake, which a lot of drivers do, especially up on the NASCAR level and on the asphalt level. Down in dirt, you guys are setting up your cars. You get hit with the fine, it's because you were the ones that were making the call to set it up.
Right.
There's very few guys out there that they don't have anything to do with their car. They just let their team set it up, and it's unfair. Yeah, I know. It's a good thing you let Fred Lauer do all the setups. So that's the fines and penalties for the 11 car. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in turn 4.
So you raced your car this weekend, and it ended up on the wrecker. Alter Metal Recycling in Council Bluffs wants to remind you it's not a total loss. Bring it by their modern scrap metal recycling facility and get top dollar for your car. Alter has a full concrete unloading zone, so you don't have to deal with muddy loading zones, and pays on the spot for your car. Alter Metal Recycling is open 6 days a week.
with locations in Omaha, Lincoln, Grand Island, and more. Find your location online at ultratrading.com.
This week's young gun on the front stretch is Dakota Earls, who at 9 years old has already been behind the wheel of a kart for 6 years, despite having Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism. At the age of 5 in 2011, Dakota made the A main event at the World Dirt Championships at Daytona International Speedway. The next year, he moved to junior sprint cars and went to the Tulsa Shootout for the first time and qualified first out of 48 drivers. After a driver invert, he started fourth and came home in 5th place. In 2013, he won the Show Me Showdown in Sweet Springs, Missouri, taking home a cool $700 payday. Dakota has won 46 out of 82 feature starts and has claimed 2 track championships at Atchison County Speedway. He has plans to go 4 wide in the world of outlaws and wants nothing more than to race in IndyCar or NASCAR. None of this would be possible without the support of his parents and great sponsors like Show Me Guttering, Fairfield Motorsports, Rucker Signs, and more. Keep your eye out for Dakota Earls. He's this week's young gun on the front stretch.
We have all been there before. Broken car part in your hand and some snot-nosed punk behind the counter has no idea what he is talking about, but he guarantees that this part will fix your car. You pay an arm and a leg for the replacement, get it home, and sure enough, it doesn't fit your car. Now, learn from your mistake and give an experienced salesperson at Kosiski Auto Parts a call today at 402-731-4592. Kosiski Auto Parts will get you back on the road with your arms and legs still attached.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into Turn 4 on the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up. We are heading into turn number 4. We appreciate you sticking around for the front stretch. I want to say thank you to Shayle Bade for joining us and talking about her win last weekend at Beatrice Speedway. I do want to throw out one last thing. Joe Gibbs Racing is appealing the penalty. But they are going to have Darian Grubb and, I forgot the guy's name again, the crew chief, start serving their suspension now. And the reason why they're going to do that is because I think they know they're going to lose it, but they got to appeal it just in case. And I don't think the suspensions are going to be lifted. Maybe Denny's point penalty will be reduced, driver point penalty. But serve it now, guess what happens in 6 weeks? The chase starts.
Yep.
So if he waits 2 or 3 weeks for the appeals process to happen, you're 2 or 3 weeks into the chase by the time he's done serving. They're done serving their penalties. So smart move on Joe Gibbs Racing.
Oh yeah.
Greg Ives named as crew chief for Dale Jr. for 2015. Currently, Greg Ives is the crew chief for Chase Elliott in the Nationwide Series, and that's obviously working. How about that for a kid that is tearing up the Nationwide Series and doing it with authority? So. Big announcement for Hendrick Motorsports and the 88 team. Greg Ives will now be taking over for Steve Letarte, who is now leaving Hendrick to become an analyst for NBC Sports.
You know what's really interesting about this? You were just talking to me, is either last week on the show or before the show, you were talking, or maybe even this show, I can't remember, but you were just talking about how important these engineers are on these cars.
Yep.
You know, and Ives was an engineer on Hendrick cars, you know, especially with Jimmy Johnson on that 5 championship run.
Yeah.
And now we're bringing that 6th championship run. So now we're coming over to Earnhardt Jr., and I think that's really cool. It makes me wonder, what job's more important, the engineer or the crew chief now? Or they almost kind of blur in...
That article, listen, I'm going to send you that link to the article, and it's a long read, but it's fascinating because Larry McReynolds, you know, of the 3 guys in motorsports that I have a man crush on, Larry McReynolds is one of them. I think he's brilliant. I think he's articulate, and I love listening to him talk. And he said in his southern drawl, I do believe an engineer has become more important than a crew chief. And that says a lot coming from here. A, he's smart. B, he's a crew chief.
Yeah. He's
a former crew chief. So if he's saying that, it takes a lot to admit that your position isn't as important anymore. And I honestly, I'm not right now, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I don't have a problem with an engineer being the most important person in the garage, because how many times have we watched football and the most important position has changed every 3 or 4 years? It's been running backs, it's been wide receivers, it's quarterbacks, it's linebackers. It moves. Who is the most important? It depends on what the plays are being called, what's a fad right now. Who's the most important person on the field?
Yep.
Right now, it's engineers in racing. So,
hey, speaking of positions, I do want to mention.
What the heck are you cooking? You've apparently decided that you're going to bring the Race Team Alliance down to dirt track racing.
Whoa. I'm not cooking it up. I went on Facebook, and I was like, you know what? If NASCAR can do it, I'll give it a shot. So I put it on Facebook, hey, who wants to join me? Let's start a dirt track racing Race Team Alliance. And a lot of people, I've had 17 likes, and I've had quite a few people go, well, I'm in. The whole Race Team Alliance, I haven't really sat down and studied every little nook and cranny and everything, but I know you haven't either, Dan. But basically, to make a long story short, they're just trying to figure out how to save money. Instead of everybody having a fleet of jets, can we use one common carrier? That saves a lot of money. That way Gibbs and Stuart Haas aren't bumping tails at the tarmac.
I loved the tweet from the pilot. Smoke's gonna be pissed.
Yeah. So, they're just trying to save money. They're trying to save money on fuel costs, travel expenses, stuff like that. In my eyes, with these NASCAR teams, without the NASCAR teams, does NASCAR have a product without the teams?
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Well, who owns the NASCAR teams? The NASCAR teams themselves own themselves. But in today's world, NASCAR sets the rules, and they want these teams to go by what they set forth. But it's Hendrick, owner in Hendrick Motorsports. It's Childress, owning Childress Motorsports. It's not NASCAR owns these teams.
Right.
Well, the same thing's in dirt. And so when I see a lot of these sanctioning bodies, with their online TV stations or doing this or doing that, and they're promoting the races, and I have to, go online, charge, and you're going to charge me $50 to watch this, or let's say my wife wants to charge or pays $50 to watch me race at some racetrack. Mm-hmm. Well, aren't the drivers the show? Without the race car drivers, the racing sanctioning bodies don't have a business.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, who's making money on who here? Yeah. These sanctioning bodies are making money at the expense of the racing teams. Now, it was our cognitive idea to go ahead and get into racing, but, Richard Petty had mentioned that if he sold out right now, he wouldn't have much there because it's sold for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Well, the Race Team Alliance does not want that to happen in NASCAR. Well, why is it any different than dirt?
That's one thing the Race Team that NASCAR fears that the Race Team Alliance will want to bring in is that there will be a franchise essentially with these teams, because just the fact you're bringing up is if Rick Hendrick decided, I'm done racing, and he's got four teams on the track, right? So he's got $160 million that he's spending every year to race 4 teams. And we're just taking the general $40 million per team per year. So $160 million. There's no way he's going to get $160 million out of that race team if he decides to sell it to somebody else. But if I own a NFL team, owning that franchise right is worth $400 or $500 million. Before I do anything else, there's value in owning that. The way that NASCAR is set up is there is no value in the number 48, the number 24, the number 88, and the number 5.
Yeah, I mean, people sit there and go, well, yeah, that 48 team, I mean, that's got to be worth, a couple $100 million. Really? So how many tens of thousands of people are lined up with a pocketbook to go buy a Cup team?
Well, and even then, if he decides to sell everything for the 48 team, you buy it all. You buy all the equipment, all the merchandise, everything. It's not going to equal $160 million.
No, it's going to get pennies on the dollar at best at auction.
No one gets into this business to break even. You get into this business to make a little money. Now, Rick's making money, obviously, but this is the whole point. So the race team, you want to do the Race Team Alliance on the dirt track. So what side of it though? This is what I'm questioning on the, because I think if you can convince me this is something you can actually save money, I think it's something you should actually do. What facets of dirt racing can you save money on? Because it's probably not going to be transport.
Oh, by far and away, I would think, granted, there's a lot of expense on the upkeep and maintaining the cars, but a lot of the travel expenses, just for me alone, if I was to go to every race that I wanted to, that I could honestly, legitimately go to this year, we're talking $7,000, $8,000.
Yeah.
So, when you're on a Race Team Alliance, and if I could get, 100, 200 drivers on the same page, and we could go to a fuel supplier. We could go to a hotel chain. And, a lot of these hotel chains, you look at a Holiday Inn, it's not just Holiday Inn. They got a Holiday Inn and about 4 different varieties.
There's 8 different brands.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have gone to the NASCAR races. We've seen this. So if you can work with the suppliers and say, look, you're not just dealing with me, you're dealing with a couple hundred of us.
Well, and you could also deal with,
you can do stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. We're going to move along. We can also deal with manufacturers. And you and I had a conversation on Wednesday before we recorded the show that if I start building shocks and they're popular and I'm charging $100 a shock, well, all of a sudden people are winning with my shock. I'm going to raise that price to $150. And frankly, I'm going to keep raising the price
until people will buy it.
I'm going to keep raising the price until people stop buying it.
The problem is, what's that do for the sport?
It kills it.
And in this sport, we're not making any money at this. When you start looking at the fact that some of us are winning $100, maybe $400 for a feature win.
Tough thing is, you guys keep finding a way to spend that money that you don't have. That's the tough thing, and that's the inevitable evil of this sport.
It's like a vicious circle.
All right, we gotta wrap up the show. We appreciate you joining us. The race today, Pocono, the Tricky Triangle.
Love my Tricky Triangle.
Last time we were here, I think it was like 7 weeks ago, we were at Pocono. Dale Jr. got the win. Brad Keselowski came home second, and Brad looked very good, very fast. Caught a little bit of debris on his front bumper. Tried to use Danica Patrick, a lap car, to get that debris off because his car was overheating. She ended up taking him out of his groove and taking him off the pace, and Dale Jr. was able to get around him with, I think, like 2 to go. So Dale got the win. Brad came home second. Kurt Busch came home third. Denny Hamlin fourth. And Kyle Larson came home fifth. So those are your top 5 finishers for the last Pocono race. Green flag action at noon. Coverage starts on ESPN at 11 a.m. and on MRN, plus on all the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. We appreciate you joining us today on the front stretch. For Buddy Ray, I am Dan Taylor. Have a great weekend.
All race car drivers know how frustrating it can be to lose a race because of a cheap part. They save pennies by going with the cheap part, and now they're on the hauler watching someone else celebrate in victory lane. Cutting corners in racing is just as costly as cutting corners on your car. Make sure you have quality parts on your car by heading to O'Reilly Auto Parts. With 13 locations in Omaha and Council Bluffs, it's easy to find an O'Reilly Auto Parts near you. Find your parts fast and easily online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
The best bike night on the planet continues with the hottest Wednesday nights around at Quaker Steak and Lube. Smoking hot deals like $6.99 lube burgers or $3 Busch Lights, $4 aluminum pint bottles, smoking bands on the lube stage, and smoking giveaways like concert tickets to Firehouse at Ralston Arena or Stir Cove. Bike night at Quaker Steak and Lube, brought to you by Holstein's Harley-Davidson each and every Wednesday night, where there's never a cover charge and always a great time. Quaker Steak and Lube, next to the Mid-America Center in Council Bluffs. 40 years and still smoking.
For 50 years, Eagle Raceway has been pushing the limits of dirt track racing. Saturday nights, come see the Midwest Best Battle at the fastest third-mile track. Gates open at 5:30 for IMCA Modifieds, Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, Sport Mods, and Race Saver Sprint Cars. Eagle kicks their season off on April 19th with the Icebreaker Challenge, featuring the debut of the Race Saver Sprint Cars. Located just 10 minutes east of Lincoln on Highway 34 and online at eagleraceway.com.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.